Not so much.
Pledge allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice pants, boss. I like them.
Matches the sweater. Welcome, everybody. We have Kathy Devon and Tim Patrikas from the Board of Selectmen, Mike Marinaccio, our Chief Financial Officer, Brian Wissinger, our Assistant Finance Director, Mr. Ralph Williams, Mr. Dave Penny, and Mr. Keith Allard. We're waiting for the Chief. He should be here shortly. So, David, you want to folks on the agenda?
Okay.
Come on up to the table, Dave.
Did folks get the...
Yes.
Yes.
Let me read your letter, okay, if you don't mind.
If you want to read the whole thing.
Not the whole thing, but just...
Just give us a synopsis of his letter.
Yeah, so will I.
Hi, John.
We have it here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about David's letter. The assessor has completed an update of the pilot payable to the town from Woodcrest Elderly Housing Phase 2. The new amount is $43,108. I would like to meet with the board. They should look to finalize budget proposals for the town's consideration and discuss the significance of this pilot to the town's revenue, Woodcrest expenses, and the town's positions regarding support for the low-income people in Summers. Okay, Dave?
And, you know, I did put some thoughts together.
Do you want me to read these for
Nope.
the record or not?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm going to attach them or
I'll attach them.
deposit them in the appropriate receptacle, whatever your inclination. But something, you know, and for phase one, we have a memorandum from the standing wherein the pilot is abated for, well, you know, the period is out there for 20 years, and the goal was to enable keeping rents lower. And we just went through and reviewed folks, and there's 7 individual cases where circumstances had changed fairly significantly, and finances have been getting more secure in phase 1 and more stable, and indeed we did lower rent for these folks, and I'd just like to give you a little feel for what it means to some folks. This is a note from February 1 to the manager. Dear Brooke, on behalf of the Norman family, I am writing to thank you for your kindness and compassion towards our brother Bob. Your willingness to advocate on his behalf with the Woodcrest Board of Directors is genuinely appreciated. Bob has struggled for much of his life. His 2017 move into your senior community has proven a real blessing. It offers him a quality of life that I do not believe we could find anywhere else. Thank you again for helping to make this possible. So, I mean, that's the underlying motivation. I mean, Summers has some nice housing stock for folks who really cannot, without the kind of subsidies that go into this type of project, afford this level of housing. And you know, I think it's it is a credit to Summers. And to what extent, you know, we as a town look at this mission to do as much as we can find a way to do to support these folks. The pilot on phase 2, were it abated in any measure, would go right to the bottom line.
And assist those people that are struggling financially.
Well, almost by definition.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking previously. You come in at 80% of median, you've got, some discretionary income. You come in at 25%, even 50 or 60, depending on your circumstances, your health or your medical expenses, whatever. You don't have a lot of discretion, and if we can hold rent without an increase across the board, and because of the abatement, do some special individual recognition of circumstances that weren't there when the folks moved in, but again, somebody dies, and we find this quite frequently, that a couple moves in, and then one of the members of the couple does pass away, and whatever their benefits, Social Security or otherwise, generally changing, and there's always, again, at this level of income, represents a stressful transition for the surviving member to make, and to what extent we have the capacity to come in and modify that rent to something that is affordable for the, for the changed circumstances of that household. That really helps make this possible. To otherwise these folks are moving out. They don't have much choice.
Yeah, it's a problem in terms of affordable housing and
Yep.
housing, especially for seniors that are on limited income.
So that's what I'm putting to you.
Okay. I have a
Comments?
question, David. What is the, this is a new schedule. What was the old one? The 43,000?
Oh, it's been at 38 and change, 38,000 and change.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was stable at that until Walter went through and recalculated
Okay.
on that. So
Okay, thank you.
Tim, any comments?
The only question I had, we had a financial recap from the Woodcrest Housing Authority at one point. I don't recall what that showed. I don't know if it was.
We get their annual financial reports
yeah,
audited from them.
we get annual
That
audits.
pilot is developed based on, the formula is defined by state statute.
Yep.
And the numbers they have plugged in are based on the audited financials that they give us for their budget.
But I forget, was there a return to the investors or was there
Not out of the operating
yet.
expenses. The only return the investors get are the tax credits
Okay.
and the depreciation from the property. So.
Yeah, that's what brings them in. Is because that's
Yeah.
a fairly guaranteed type of income off of their investment. They don't expect to any type of surplus at the end of the year to distribute, which is why, as long as we're keeping the operation in the black, we can, yeah, right.
Okay.
We do certainly have a pretty thick agreement with the investors, but it does not require that we maximize return in any sense.
And what was the pilot payment last year that was made on phase 2?
Little
That's what you said.
in excess of
38,000.
38,000, yeah.
Okay.
It's been at that level for 3-4 years, since Pat was it.
A couple of things, David. Number one, I want to thank you, and the board thanks you for your advocacy in terms of Crest and the Housing Authority. And secondly, I think we'll discuss this and get back to you
Yeah.
to review this.
No,
And I appreciate
your
concern,
you
which we
taking it
share.
in, and I'm certainly confident that you'll give it full consideration.
We will.
And do the best you can by it. You mentioned the board, and Bob Landry is going to submit his letter of resignation. His health is such it's hard for him to get around. So, which leaves Mary Lou Hastings and myself.
How many are part of that? How many people?
Mary
are part
Lou
of
is a diehard. She's good that she's back there. We usually have 5?
It's a 5-member board.
5-member board.
Board of Commissioners, and 3 is required to hold an actual meeting,
Right.
and so now we can't meet.
Do you have any recommendations that we can consider?
I've been trying on that. Ham Wilson was saying he'd do it, but town attorney took a look at his participation on the pension advisory committee and felt that would place him, in conflict with the statutory
Is that
requirements.
true?
I'm not an attorney.
Well, I'm not either. I'm surprised.
Good answer.
So no.
I think state law says
No
that
answer
a
on
member of
that
the
for
housing
me.
authority cannot hold any
Okay.
municipal position
All
while
right.
you're appointed.
But the acting director of the Department of Housing responded to my call on this, and he's willing to parse the word official, serves the town some official capacity, and whether the advisory committee would be an official capacity. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm sure the town attorney's opinion is not to be readily, easily set aside. I'm working on another fellow who has expressed some potential interest, but he wants to come to a meeting. We're having a hard time getting a meeting.
I have someone who could be interested, but when are the meetings held?
We'll be flexible. Right now, they're 3
that you?
3 o'clock in
No,
the afternoon.
no, my wife's about to retire. On the other hand, she's probably going to be babysitting for my youngest daughter who just gave birth last month.
Congratulations.
Beginning sometime soon. And the question is, that's going to be that because that daughter's either going to go back to teaching in the fall or else she's going to go to grad school. So, if I noticed your meetings have tended to be at 3 in the afternoon.
We can move to the evening to accommodate somebody who actually, is
I don't
report
think
elsewhere.
she's ready to make the jump yet, but I'll pass
Okay.
the word.
We'll keep her in mind. I ran
We
into somebody in the
should,
post
we
office
should
on West
consider
Chase too.
some alternatives there.
I will try to find someone for you. I know
Yeah,
someone
you
who
know,
lost his job and he's in his 50s and he can't seem to get work. He may just want to participate and volunteer.
Well, and we have taken on direct oversight of the management.
Okay.
And so there's some work to do in that regard as far as monitoring financial activity on a month-to-month basis and uneven item-to-item
Okay.
type of engagement. That's not necessarily as a member of the housing authority, and
Right.
we're doing the management through an affiliated corporation. And directors on that don't have to necessarily be in the housing authority, but again, the business engagement certainly welcome.
Okay.
Worthwhile. All right, we got a lot on your agenda, and I appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
David.
Good
Thank you, David.
All right, thanks, folks.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Summersville Mill Preferred Developer. The Board of Selectmen, in cooperation with the Summersville Ad Hoc Mill Committee, reviewed numerous proposals from prospective developers in response to the RFQ that we issued in September, October. A total of 4 proposals were evaluated, and the Ad Hoc Committee indicated at their December 10th, 2018 meeting, quote, after hearing the presentations by KC developers, it is the opinion of the committee to forward a notice to the town that the plans as presented seem consistent with the vision statement of the property, and that the committee makes a recommendation that the town pursue this as an option for the development of the property. In our analysis, in conjunction with the ad hoc committee, we felt that KCG proposal meets the essential parameters of the vision statement. They have an experienced development team, architectural, design, housing, development, commercial real estate, and more importantly, the financial ability and experience in securing financing from a variety of debt and equity programs to hopefully make this proposal a reality. KCG has collectively financed and developed and built more than $2.8 billion of projects. One particular project that caught the attention of myself and the various board members was the Chalmers Mill Loft Complex in an abandoned 20th century knitting mill in Amsterdam, New York. So this is open for discussion, and if we agree, I will alert the zoning commission, and they will take the necessary steps in terms of setting up.
What board? Because are you talking the ad hoc committee or a board when you said the board?
The ad hoc committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
Some of
makes
you,
it more clear.
Tim was part of the ad hoc committee, but he also part of the board.
But I
And-
think Kathy's point is, are we going to entertain a motion for us to move it forward, or to recommend that the ad hoc committee move it forward?
Make a recommendation at the Board of Selectmen moving forward.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee is advisory committee. We make the decision in terms of the selection of the preferred developer,
Okay.
and then it goes through the procedures in terms of zoning, planning, conservation, etc.
So do you want to make that motion so we can get the discussion moving?
I would like to make the motion that we, of course, I don't have the wording again, but that we move forward with the
Recommendation.
recommendation to the zoning commission based on recommendations coming from the ad hoc committee to review the developer KCG.
Discussion.
Wait a second, let me get this down first.
Okay.
I type slower than you speak.
Well, I talk
Based on
fast.
recommendations by the Summersville Mill Ad hoc Advisory Committee to move forward.
Based upon the to
the
forward
KG,
to zoning.
Yep. So here's what I've got. Move forward with the recommendation to the zoning commission based on recommendations from the Summersville Mill Ad hoc Committee for the proposal submitted by,
KCG
Developers.
developer.
thank you,
Now can we discuss?
KCG
Yeah,
developer.
we have Ralph Williams as part of the ad
Wait a
hoc
second,
committee.
you don't have a second yet. You've got a
Oh.
motion by Kathy.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Now motion, now we can discuss, okay.
Now we can talk.
Yep.
We have Mr. Ralph Williams and yourself as part of the ad hoc committee, so it's open for discussion.
One question I have is, I thought the developers said that before they could do a full workup of this, and whether it's detailed plans, full marketing study or whatnot, they were looking for some sort of commitment from the town, whether it was an option or something of the like. Doesn't that happen prior to actually having something to present to zoning?
I think it's premature at this time in terms of coming up with a master plan and how we're going to handle this going forward. But I think the next step in the process is just to refer it to the zoning commission. They will present their overview in terms of what they're planning.
Okay,
And then the details will follow in terms of
okay.
whether we sell the property, lease the
I
property.
just wasn't quite clear on that.
I
That's all.
think
What's
it,
required.
that is probably where I was going with this, is that I believe that when you looked at the planned development district,
Right.
it's really the zoning commission that will take hold of it, embrace
Right.
it, and we don't present it, this is the
No,
plan
no,
we're
I
going to do.
know that. All I'm saying is that I thought the developers were looking for the town to basically be putting some sort of earnest here because it's gonna cost them some serious money to do a full workup of a study and full plans. And I think that they wanted to at least be sure that the town was basically holding this land in reserve for them for the time being, whether it's an option or something of the sort.
I seem to recall something similar, so perhaps we should amend the motion to say that we want to notify KCG that we'd like to let them know that we think they should forward their proposal to that they have our support to forward their proposal to the zoning commission.
That would be the next step.
Does that
And
make
then-
sense to you,
right.
Kathy?
I don't know what
What I'm suggesting
is it an
that
option, or is it
I
just?
think, so we don't know what they want, right? Nor is it our role to tell them what zoning's gonna want. So I think if we vote tonight to notify KCG that we support them and recommend that they take their proposal to zoning for an approval, we're just notifying that of all the proposals we looked at, that's the one we like, but now it's your ball, you go figure out what to do with it at zoning.
And
Right.
if they want to come back and say, oh, wait a minute, we're going to need to say some earnest from you at least to.
That's
They
correct.
Gotta
can
go-
start that
gotta go through
discussion in public
Exactly,
session.
exactly,
Right.
I was saying
Thank you,
that-
Ralph,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I think
Then
you're right.
Yeah.
I would then like you to modify that
Okay,
motion.
modified to, and I'll write it up and send it to you before we publish it, but it'll be, well, let's do it.
We have to really do it to
Modified.
vote.
Yep, modified to recommendation, note that the first selectman, so I'll modify the motion to say that we want the first selectman to notify KCG developers that the Board of Selectmen,
KCG development, by the way.
thank you, that the Board of Selectmen based on a recommendation, supports their proposal, and that KCG should notify the Summers Zoning Commission, right, of their intent
Proceed.
to proceed.
Right.
Want me to read that again?
Who's proceeding? Are we talking zoning or are we talking
We're
case?
talking KCG has
KCG.
to now reach out to zoning. It's on them.
Then I think that should be in the wording.
So here's what I got. The first selectman shall notify KCG Development that the Board of Selectmen, based on a recommendation from the Summersville Mill Ad Hoc Advisory Committee, supports their proposal, and that KCG should notify the Summers Zoning Commission of their intent to proceed.
To present to them.
To proceed.
To proceed, yeah.
Yep.
Which
I'm
means
not going to
they're
invite him to
present.
present because it's up
Got
to
it
zoning to
now.
decide.
All right, I'm fine with that then.
So the only other point I'd like to make is out there in the world of Facebook, there seems to be some discussion about affordable housing versus low-income housing, and it's my understanding that the proposal from KCG Developer has a small portion of the proposed rental units as affordable,
No.
which is not necessarily low income.
It's not low income, it's affordable housing. So essentially what they're recommending is 80% of the units of the 66 units will be affordable housing as defined by the average income in Tolland County, which is about $90,000 times 60%. So about $45,000 to $50,000 would be the qualifying income.
Perfect.
And then 30% of that would relate to about a $1,200 a month rent.
Yeah.
So this is not low income, this is affordable housing.
And this is rent coming out of
I get
the
that.
rentor's pocket. It's not a question
Correct.
of being in his
And-
Section 235 certificates,
Right.
right?
And the other 20% will be at market rates.
Yeah, so I get that, and this group gets that, but I think as we're speaking with KCG, making sure that they address that when they propose zoning would be beneficial for them.
Yeah,
I urged them at the meeting, at
Yeah,
our first
this,
meeting.
Ralph's right, this came up in our various discussions with him because we knew the sensitivity of this statement. Affordable housing versus the perception it may be low income housing. They said they're prepared to address that, and they'll make that presentation when they meet with the zoning board, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. This is the first step of many that we have to go through here in terms of getting this thing to fruition.
This is nothing like the parameters that apply for Woodcrest.
No. And I think people should be aware of that. I'm also aware of what's happening in terms of social media, but that's not complete. That's not accurate. And people have plenty of time
Yep.
to make their comments in a public meeting when this proceeds among these states.
Perfect.
Okay. Ralph, additional comments or discussion?
No, not relative to the motion here, no.
Okay.
Ready for a vote?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, and I'll alert KCG.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Todd Rowland regarding various requests. Todd?
Thanks, Ralph.
Got a few things. First up is CIP request for FY20. We have two at this time. We have another one pending. It's not ready, and I'll submit that one to you at your next meeting. The first of these two current ones are the replacement of the roadside mower. It's a 1995 roadside mower, and it's what we use to mow the roadsides and all around town. This is a mower that we've been actually bumping down our list for the last 5 years because I was hopeful that the Eversource was going to have their roadside mower program again, where if you get at least 3 towns together to share a mower, then they'll pay the lease payment for the host town, and after 5 years, the host town owns it. I've made many inquiries over the last 5 years, and I have nothing official, but essentially what the sense I'm getting is that they're taking the money they were putting into that program and putting it into tree trimming, what have you, so that program is
Gone?
the person administering it retired and they didn't replace him. So the program is no longer operational. So we're at a point now we really need to replace this piece of equipment. It's either replace the whole thing or at least the mowing head. That's $70,000. It doesn't make sense to do that because this is $125,000 for the entire the tractor, the mowing head, the arm, and everything. This would give us another 20 years of life, more than we've gotten out of this mower, to replace this.
Do you want to do these individually, Todd?
Sure.
So we have to make a recommendation to forward this on to CIP.
Yes.
Okay.
A formal motion, right, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we move forward the recommendation by Todd Rowland for replacement of the roadside mower.
Second,
Any discussion?
yes. Is this, this has been, how old is this already?
1995.
Okay, okay.
It's 24 years now.
Yeah, because I was thinking, this hasn't come up yet in any time. I've
No,
been
no,
on the
not for
board.
this.
That's
We've been moving
2000.
it, myself and finance
Yeah.
have been moving it on our
This
master
is
list
really
of
old.
equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we weren't using it intensively because we were in this agreement with Eversource, with Columbia and Vernon for 5 years. So we were using that mower and this one not as much, so it bought us some life. It's been on our list and on our radar, and every year we look at what our CIP expenditures are gonna be and say, well, you know, if we need a plow truck, we need a plow truck. If we need a fire truck, we need a fire truck. This has to take second fiddle. So we've been kind of doing that the last 5 years.
Okay,
That's why I haven't brought it to you yet.
okay.
All in favor? Take a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We'll forward this on to CIP.
Thank
Next
you.
item, Todd.
Next item is tennis court repair. We completely rebuilt the tennis courts in the park in 2010. Right now what's happening is, well, the surface is coming off. It's paint, it's a coating, and the lining needs to be redone. But really the control joints, which are the joints that are cut in the asphalt surface, they're expansion joints, and they're expanding as they're supposed to. We have filled them a couple times. Now they're 3 inches wide. They're becoming
Taking water.
tripping hazard.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue now. They really need to be professionally filled with a fiberglass compound and top with that, and then resurface the entire thing to get good life out of the tennis courts that we rebuilt in 2010.
You have to mow the courts.
And we don't have to
Grass
mow it.
growing
Yeah,
up.
grass
Well,
courts.
that we dig the weeds out constantly.
Go straight up Wimbledon.
It's really,
style.
it's the tripping hazard that's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
And these are the ones at
Field
Field
Road
Road?
Park.
Road,
yeah.
Field Road.
Yeah.
So we had a company that does a really good job of coming and look at it. We'll go out to bid. If this is approved, it's $40,000 to route out, fill the cracks with the proper compound, and then clean and resurface the entire
Resurface.
tennis courts and reline them. We're gonna reline 2 of them to be a dual-purpose tennis and pickleball courts, because pickleball's become quite a thing now. We have a small group, but they're very active, using some of the courts for pickleball, and they're very vocal, so we want to address their needs.
So for the purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion that we move forward the proposal to repair the 4 tennis courts at the Field Road Park.
Second,
So a couple questions. On the CIP request, it doesn't say anything about the pickleball thing,
Line stripe all 4 courts.
so we should probably put that in if we want to do it, just so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Just refers to tennis
Okay,
courts.
yeah.
That's fine.
Just so that, you know, if it's a vocal group that wants them and that's what we're going to do it on, we should
Tennis
just make
courts
sure.
slash
I think we should
pickleball.
really put that, I agree.
Yeah, I
with
want
you.
that put in there. And then the other question I have is the vendor that you've had come in, what's the warranty on the crack refilling and all that?
The cracking is 3 years, but it's not, their work is 3 years. The cracking is really a function of asphalt pulling apart. All asphalt degrades in the sun and it shrinks because the asphalt cement degrades. So the cracking is doing what it's supposed to do. It's a control joint. So we're controlling where it's cracking. It's all along the sidelines. It's underneath the tennis courts. So you don't have a tripping hazard or a crack in the playing surface.
Okay.
So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. And as an asphalt surface, that's what they do. The asphalt shrinks.
So they're going to dig out the old grout.
Yeah, they're going to dig it all out, and then they put in essentially a cement mastic,
Filler.
and then they go over that with a fiberglass epoxy coating.
Okay.
And that will get 3 years on. The surface is 2 years, which is the coating. Think of a paint, but it's more than a paint. It's a coating. But there's always some maintenance that we do touch up every year.
Yeah, the
People-
reason I ask is we had it done at the church 5 years ago.
But
and
they
it was
didn't
supposed
let
to
it
be
dry.
guaranteed forever. Not forever. It was supposed to be guaranteed for 3 or 4 years, and the next year it looked like a hayfield.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we've got a vendor that's got a
Right.
guarantee that they'll stand
Well,
behind
that's why
us
we
if
went with
we
them,
spend
because this is all they do, is tennis courts.
Maybe the vendor wasn't the proper vendor for
I have
that.
a big mess.
When it was built, the vendor that we went with was the lowest bidder, and that was their first tennis court.
What'd
At
we
the
learn?
time, we didn't have controls that we have now. back then.
But you're comfortable that they have a warranty and that they'll
Yes.
actually stand behind it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, vote.
So I'm going to modify the motion to say forward with the proposal as amended to include striping for
Tennis and
for
pickleball?
tennis and pickleball.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, the report on the CIP.
Yeah, after you make those changes, send them over to me, I'll get Bud to sign them,
Okay.
move them on the CIP.
Next item I have is the Shaker Road no-through trucks
Oh,
request.
yeah. Yeah.
This, I reached out to the director in Enfield and had a conversation with him. He's new, but he talked to his legal traffic authority officer, Sergeant Meyer, and Summers did make this request to the DOT back in 2012.
Yes.
And Enfield reviewed it and came up with the same answer they came up with now, is they would not support such a request for several reasons. First, they're afraid it would set a precedent for other roads in Enfield that have a higher truck volume, and they get calls all the time for the same thing. Secondly, they don't really have the police power to enforce such a prohibition. There's a lot of nuisance calls, trucks making deliveries. Actually, there's a contractor that lives on Summers Road that would be coming in and out of his property. He'd have to be exempted, and then you get into...
But he's not a through truck.
True, well,
No, he's not.
but the residents don't really understand the
But he
difference
isn't.
between...
Okay,
He's
so
not,
they don't have
okay,
to
but
worry
he's got
about
a
it,
truck.
But they don't have to worry about enforcing
No.
somebody who's not a through truck. So I'm going to discount that whole statement. It's just-
But,
he's not a through truck.
and he said
not.
also on the roads, they do have these prohibitions. They get an unusually call volume into the police department, and they don't have the manning like anybody else to address all of those concerns. The gist of it is it doesn't really matter to us why they say no, but if the adjoining town says no, DOT would never move forward on such a request. My point is, we've gone through the process. We could ask DOT to look into it, but the answer's gonna be the same. If Enfield says no, they're not gonna, DOT won't approve it. I suggest what we could do is have public safety step up in speed enforcement. If we wanted to go another level, we could talk about maybe bringing the truck teams in for specifically Shaker Road and backing them to step up enforcement. And we could put up trucks are requested not to use this road on the
Sign,
main street
yeah.
and by the farm at our town line. It doesn't have the force of law, but it might help somewhat.
I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I'm not satisfied that we've done, I understand Enfield does this every time, because this to them is money, it's coming through there to deliver to all their,
And that's probably part of it. I mean, Martin
Sure it
Borough
is.
is the biggest truck.
Yeah, it's
concern.
Martin Bauer and FedEx.
That's a,
and
that's a big,
FedEx.
I'd be curious if we opted to put up the trucks are requested signs, we can do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
have
if
a
we,
picture of these in your...
yeah, we would do it
Right, so-
in our right of way, on our road.
Right.
And why not?
think
and-
about the residents who came here and said,
Okay.
well,
That stuff is
exactly,
enforcement.
so if I can just
Yeah.
finish mine, I think if we took a vote to put those signs up, my understanding was that we couldn't at the previous meeting, so knowing that we can now, that's good. If we took a vote to do that, and then sent out mailings to people in Enfield who abut Shaker Road and then are on that other road that goes toward Martin Brower and suggest they get in touch with their town council, perhaps we could engage them in a different conversation that their residents are
Perhaps, yeah,
concerned
if
with.
they get enough public pressure that they might revisit it.
The other thing I would like to ask is if we're going to do that on Shaker Road, we should also consider doing it on, is it Four Bridges there, or is it?
George Wood?
George Wood. George Wood up to Hall Hill, because if they can't make a right onto Shaker, they're gonna go straight down George Wood and just move the problem to George Wood. So I would recommend if we're gonna do it, we do it on both roads.
Tim, just a correction, the signs, we're not permitted to put signs up that says no through trucks. We are permitted to put signs up that we recommend trucks don't
The
use.
request-
trucks are
request.
requested. I
Yes.
thought that question was asked at the last meeting and we were
Right.
told no by
It-
the police, so
well,
that's
it
It
was
was,
my-
but I think you had to wait to get the no from the other town.
Right.
Gotcha.
The process for this is to make this LTA to make the application to the DOT, the State Traffic Commission, requesting a no-through truck prohibition, and then they investigate, they interview Enfield. And
Okay.
if the abutting town says no, they say no.
Okay, I've alerted our resident state trooper and our constables to basically either patrol this or set up a speed
Right.
trap or something, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Maybe they get tagged enough, they'll consider slowing down.
We're all good
And part of this conversation, I'd also like to bring up what we heard and hear about being in the lane at the light, going right, and how often, because of a wide turn, it could actually cause an accident. I think we should address that somehow and make those residents know we're aware of it and we're not satisfied the way things are going. And I don't know why it would hurt to even go to the DOT with that and have them come out here and see it.
We could, I mean, we could still make
It's
the
too
request to
narrow.
DOT.
It is far too narrow.
Yeah.
And I'd like us to go the full way of trying to do something and
You
not
said I had
stop
those.
at this point.
Everything's here. It's all marked by the numbers associated with
Wow, you're like that Arlo Guthrie song.
Yeah.
We can, that's DOT's.
the numbers refer to the items
They
on
do, yeah.
the,
When you,
Yes.
when
Yeah,
you
we're on
turn
number 5, so I was looking at number 5, not number 6.
That-
well,
Right
It should
there
be
at
on
the-
six
at the
now.
Five, six,
cemetery, it
whatever.
says truck
No,
is no
it's
right.
5.
Then that went
Shaker
through
Road?
the State Traffic Commission to get that put up.
Trying
If
to
we
make
put
it
signs
easier
in the
to-
Okay,
state's
well,
right
then
away,
it's,
they'll take them down.
it's under our
Yeah.
purview, it's under
he's
our
got 4,
town.
5, and 6.
You mean coming south on
that's it.
Shaker Road or coming off of Main Street onto Shaker?
Coming off of Main Street onto Shaker.
That would be on DOT's road and their right of way.
We could ask them though.
We
don't
could
need
ask them,
Enfield's
yeah.
permission to do that.
No, yeah, we could ask for a no right
I
turn.
really think you should, because that was very dangerous for people that go up to that stoplight.
My
And it
concern
showed-
is, and I agree with Kathy, my concern is that we have to wait until there's a fatal accident there before somebody takes some sort of initiative.
I don't know if that would even,
Well,
You're gonna need
there-
a lot
the-
more than one.
I mean, the process is to write a letter to the State Traffic Commission and request a no-through truck prohibition. And then when they come back and say no, they'll go through their process and investigate it, they'll interview Enfield, and then invariably it'll come back as a no. Then we could request, well, can we at least do a right turn prohibition? And they'll look at that. But we can't just put signs up on state roads, because they will take them down.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we at least put up the trucks are requested not to use this road sign at the point indicated on the map on Shaker Road, the other end of Shaker Road, and on the two ends of George Wood.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We'll
Todd,
do
you'll,
that.
if you want some assistance from me in terms of writing that letter, let me know to the state.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you, because it has to come from you, from the first selectman. Lastly is the.
Thank you for looking into that, by the way, Todd.
Oh, you're
That was
welcome.
a lot of work, but I think we
Seven.
own that.
Thank you.
Number 7. 7.
Is
I
the
didn't do
stormwater
further than
ordinance.
that.
Stormwater 7.
We had the town attorney reviewed this stormwater ordinance and strongly adopted it. Strongly suggested we adopt it. It is modeled after the DEEP suggestions. Our next step are to hold a public hearing, and then it would go to this board for adoption.
Where are we?
Number 7. in the package.
Yeah, number 7.
Number 7.
6.
Here, next one.
Oh,
There.
it's way past
It's all
that.
numbered.
Okay, thank you. This is, the water.
Yeah, this
Okay.
illicit discharge and detection ordinance.
So, and he suggests their adoption, right? So
Correct.
he's reviewed it and suggests we adopt it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do we need to do? Approve it for town hearing? Because we can't approve the ordinance without the town hearing. What steps do we need to take on it?
He's recommending us to approve it. So obviously he's read through the proposed ordinance, which was illicit discharge and connection stormwater
I
ordinance.
believe the selectmen
Would-
can approve an ordinance. This is where we ran into trouble in the past. After you approved it, it needs to be published within 30 days, and then you can have your town
Have
hearing.
your
I
hearing.
spoke
I would
with
just
the-
make sure that the town clerk is on board with all of what's going on.
I don't think
spoke
we
to
appro-
Ann, the
we don't
process
approve
is,
the ordinance until we have a hearing.
correct,
Yeah, do a
the
public
next step
hearing.
is to have a public hearing.
We have to
Right.
move to have a public hearing.
Yeah,
I
so we have to
recommend
schedule
March 7th, because we have to put a legal notice in 10 days prior and not more than 15 days prior to the public hearing. And I would suggest March 7th, because it's your first meeting in March, we could have it prior to your meeting, and then you could discuss if anybody comes to talk
Okay.
about it.
I move to set a public hearing for the proposed ordinance for illicit discharge and connection stormwater for March 7th
At what time?
at
Well, we have a meeting at
6
6, right?
p.m.
So, before that.
Is that a public hearing? Or-
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Well, the
On
Board of
March
Select-
7, at what time?
6.
Well, the Board of Selectmen meeting after the
Mhm.
public meeting.
And if there are no comments or there's no negative comments.
Then it could move to our meeting for,
Adoption, and then at least 50, it has to be at least 15-day waiting period. After that, it can go into effect. We could make it effective April 1st.
Okay. I'll second that
There's nothing on
motion.
fire.
Okay, additional discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I had one other thing not on your docket quickly.
So it's like 7A?
Oh,
I don't have-
Just an FYI, not
I don't
asking
have
for any
this.
vote. We, as part of these stormwater regulations, we have to
You didn't tell me this.
map all of our outfalls. Outfalls are just where all of our stormwater infrastructure daylights and goes into essentially streams or rivers. We have to map that. We're supposed to do it by July 1st. We're behind, but. And Jeff has been working on putting a layer on our GIS of all the subdivision plans that we have. That's fine for the newer stuff, anything within the last 40 years. The older things, we have to physically go out in the field, take a picture of them, get a GPS coordinate, and then put that on the layer manually. Now we could, which we don't have the resources internally to do, we could hire an engineering company such as Fuss & Mill to do this for us, but that would be
Very expensive.
significantly expensive. We thought, what if we could get an intern? So we reached out to the schools, asked if they have somebody in a STEM program. They do have kids that are in engineering or math that would be interested. This would be a paid internship. We have the money in our stormwater line item. It wouldn't be effective till July 1st. So we came up, I talked to Kim, and she said, well, you got to post it and do a job description. We came up with a simple job description. We'd like to post this and move forward with interviews and come up with hiring an intern, frankly, to do this work, which the field work we can't do, and the internal work is probably going to take 3 years if we get some help. Again, this is another mandate that we're supposed to have done actually last year, so we're a little behind. But so just for what it's worth, this is kind of what we're thinking of, and once we go through the process, we'll interview and then we'll come to you with recommendations.
All right.
And that's going to be part-time, temporary?
Seasonal. It'll be a summer, yeah. July 1st to end of August when we go back to school.
That seems like a cool internship for somebody that's interested in
Yeah,
that work.
we had
That'd be
positive
great.
feedback
Yeah.
from the high school. They've got
So-
a few candidates.
Do we need to make a motion on this tonight?
To post it, yeah.
Probably should, because it's here proposed, unless this follows after the hearing of that, but it's not the same
No,
thing.
no, this is a different,
Separate
Different.
thing.
separate thing, yeah.
All right, so I'll move to approve the recommendation from our Director of Public Works for a part-time seasonal
Season.
position for GIS technician intern.
Okay,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Before we get to the budget, can we,
I'd rather get everybody else out of the way, absolutely.
okay. Chief, you wanna come up and, the chief is not on the
So now we're
agenda.
skipping 8 and going right to something that's not on the
Yeah,
agenda?
because
What
he
the
came
heck,
into
Bud?
me at
Well, you gotta move to
4:30.
This is 17A.
You gotta make an agenda, you gotta add an agenda item, so.
Well, we'll add an agenda item.
It's under 10. We're adding him under 10.
Okay. Next time I'll have my numerical
Hold a minute, now where is
numbers in order.
Are you
Okay.
making a motion
What are
that
you
we
looking for now?
invite the
Never
chief to
mind.
speak on whatever he's going to speak on?
Yes.
Do we have to vote on that, or is that just
I think you have
okay
to
do?
move to add the agenda item.
I move to add an agenda item for presentation by Chief John Roche.
Second.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, John, it's yours.
All right, so this actually landed on my lap this morning as well.
That's why I was.
So it's
Oh,
last minute.
really?
So this morning we got a call from the Commissioner's Office, Department of Corrections. They are doing a new corrections to CO officer training camp. And I don't know all of the backstory on it, behind it, or why, but they've decided that they have to have an ambulance on site for the entire training program while they are doing it.
For 8 weeks.
For 8 weeks.
They want to pay for an ambulance for
So
us?
they do.
No, like
Well,
a
they're
new
willing to
one.
pay, no, but they're willing to
Not
pay
now,
for
we-
this
we always-
hourly rate. We kind of went back and forth with finance. We said, what's our normal fire watch rate? And we proposed that. And we said, well, that kind of makes us break even. Let's go higher than that. And we proposed a number to the Department of Corrections, and they went absolutely sure. So basically, they do want to rent basically an ambulance plus 2 crew members for 8 hours a day for 8 weeks, from February 20th until April 20th or somewhere
Yeah,
around
somewhere
there.
in
They don't have a graduation date yet.
For a total income of.
Be just shy of $40,000.
The billable contract would be for $38,400. My anticipated net revenue to the town would be about $25,600.
But there's
after you
risk
take
to the
out
town,
cost,
right?
yeah.
The only risk would be that there will be an ambulance there. There will only be one staffed ambulance on site here. But from my understanding, we've only had one staffed ambulance lately anyway.
Up until recently, we had
So-
typically 3 people in the firehouse in the daytime.
Plus, you still have the option with other pieces
Correct.
of equipment.
Yes.
We'd still respond to calls. It would just be the responders. So we would still do first response. Obviously, first call service we would still cover with the ambulance. We are trying to negotiate with them. I was going back and forth. If the call is at the prison across the street, then we will still take that ambulance that's being paid for by the prison. We'll take that call because that only makes sense because it's sitting right there. If the ambulance is out, it would be no different than if one of my ambulances was broken down or out of service for a couple weeks, and then we would just respond first responder and call a mutual aid ambulance, which we do currently. But it's kind of it works out for us. It's an opportunity for us a couple different ways. It does generate some revenue for the town. Also, this happens to be right now. Now that we did hire the extra staff, they're filling up hours. So my part timers between now and the next several months, are kind of cut down to bare minimum for hours. So this would actually give my part time staff an opportunity to continue to have the hours that they had been working in the past. So when we come July 1st, my full timers that I hired go to their different schedules. So basically, what happened is the career staff mainly work currently Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are planning on going 24/7 July 1st, which means I have to have extra manpower and extra coverage. We've started ramping up with the full-time staff. It means my part-time hours have gotten cut back because everybody's working in that Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
shift. I don't have anybody working the 24/7s yet. So my part-timers have all had their hours cut. So this would just be an opportunity to basically give the part-timers continue to work their normal hours or what they're used to. So come July 1st, my part-timers could continue right back and they'd go right back to their regular schedules.
I think the key point here is you have a double call. You still have the mutual aid from other towns, so we're not going to be at risk.
Correct. And I did talk with them. I would work it into it. So if an ambulance broke down or we're short an ambulance, then obviously we wouldn't be able to provide it for that day.
You're developing a relationship with the new corrections commissioner also.
Well, we know Mr. Sample. Yeah, he's been in here.
No,
He's gone.
He's
No,
not,
he's gone.
not
Oh,
there
he's
anymore.
gone? I didn't hear that.
He retired.
This is a new commissioner.
Because
so-
it's
New
all
commissioner.
new governor, new
Not a
Not a
commissioner.
stater, no less.
I
What's
still
his
think
name?
we ought to.
I don't
It's
know
a
his
very
name,
good
but he
move,
wants
I
this
think
kind
down the road
of
we need to go
deal
back
or-
and partner
Yeah,
to get an
that's-
Maybe we're gonna push
ambulance.
for
that
their
works.
ambulance.
Yeah,
Correct.
maybe that could be.
Correct, but we're trying to figure out, and we are trying to figure out, is this now going to become like an ongoing thing? And if it does become an ongoing thing, then we would probably want to position ourselves a little better and more intelligently for future. So we maybe, when we're trading in an ambulance, maybe we keep our third ambulance as a spare, because this type of program would certainly pay for that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
ambulance. Again, if they start doing this once a year, every year for corrections, and the town's making $25,000 a year,
No, I think
over
we
10 years
increased-
it pays for the ambulance.
I think we increased the price.
Well, if they didn't have any comments about the price, then you didn't have
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. You should have,
Exactly.
as soon as they said okay, you should have said per week.
No, so we did go back and forth with them quite a bit. Actually, they've been really good to work with. one of the concerns we had, we didn't want them, our crews just kind of, again, it's going to be February, March, we didn't want them sitting in an ambulance on the side of the road for 8 hours with the truck running and them just sitting in the cold in the front seat of the ambulance. It's kind of boring and a long day. They agreed to give us a garage for the ambulance, parking, and an office inside the building, so we've got our own place and set up so the guys can get up and walk around. They get bathrooms, facilities, all that good stuff. So
It's great.
it seemed to be.
Another revenue stream. I like it.
Yep.
Okay, so.
So I just, the way it's going to work is, again, if the board is okay with the concept, I've got to send a letter to the state outlining kind of our conditions that have worked with finance, with the rates. They said then they would issue a PO back to the town, and then the state would we could invoice them once a month.
Okay.
The revenue would go back.
Discussion. Motion.
No, there's no motion.
Okay. I will move to approve the proposal made by the Department of Corrections Commissioner for an eight-week program with the Summers Fire Department.
I'll second for the purposes of discussion.
Okay.
I really think if you can then take this relationship and we can speak with the commissioner
Right.
about our need to have the state of Connecticut help us with that
Yeah.
additional ambulance, this may be the inroad to get
Yeah.
there.
Yep. And I kind of got the sense that this may have been one of their ways of funneling some extra money back towards the town to help us out.
I think so.
Good.
It is. I mean, it is going to be a $40,000 chunk of change back to the town. So.
So financially, it makes sense, and I think the hours for the staff, especially in considerate July, makes sense. I'm very concerned about response times to citizens who have already paid for the ambulance that are going to get a second-level response if we have to call a mutual aid ambulance from a response time standpoint. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable compromising our residents' response times for a service they've already paid for so that we can facilitate something to a prison system that has given us nothing over the last 2 years to help with that regard. We've told them this, that we need 3 because of service to the prison. So it's all fine when they call us and want something, but they're not here to help us get what we need when we told them we needed it 6 months ago. I'm not happy with if it compromises response times to our citizens, I'm not in favor of this at all.
What are the statistics in terms of double calls?
Lease an ambulance and have them put it up there. You can put your staff up there. Maybe we need to lease an ambulance from somebody for 2 months, and that's going to change your metrics, but
Yeah, you
I
get
don't
less
want to
money on
compromise
that.
our residents' safety and what they expect of this town. I don't think it's the right thing to
The
do.
big thing that we've found is we can't, with the OEMS regulations, you could buy an ambulance, you could have it demo put in tomorrow. You would take 6 months to a year to get a license.
Damn if they had listened to us 6 months ago and we told them we wanted a new ambulance, right?
Yep.
So, no, if it compromises
I don't think,
response times.
I want to correct one thing. I never felt, sitting here with the commissioner, that the commissioner could do it. It was the state of Connecticut, and it was
Commissioner
up
didn't
to
put
our,
any pressure on them.
I know, but it was up to our state senator and representative to support that. And without that, there was nothing the commissioner could do. And so-
Kisso's introduced a bill in this session for towns with prisons to have an increase in their pilot. So that's 3 of the towns he represents, Summers, Enfield, and Suffield. So
That's good news.
Yeah.
So
So-
what's it do to response times?
So the response time for, there's a 2-part for response time. We would still have staff in the firehouse that would just respond in SUV, pickup, first response vehicle, so that would still, the time from a call to the time of medical staff on
Okay,
the door would be the same.
good.
The response time for the other ambulance would probably increase, and it depends on where the ambulance is from and where they're in town.
But you would still have a manned ambulance
Transport.
in town as well, too.
Right, so it's only the
So-
second ambulance.
So it's,
Right.
it's a potential second call at the same time.
Correct, which is
Figuring-
why we've bought 2 ambulances and staffed up for 2, so I'm presuming that is a real need, that we decided long ago that we needed to have 2 ambulances and crews
Right.
running in town. So
Right.
we made that decision, we had the town pay for it. Now we're saying we're going to set that aside so that we can do this deal for a couple $1,000. Not a bad thing, but if you're telling me that we're gonna have medical staff on site at the same timeline, I'm less concerned.
We would
Typically-
still have our,
Typically on a call, how important is that versus transit time in an ambulance? You know, I mean, you wanna have transit quick, but how well equipped is that first responder gonna be if he doesn't have a transport?
The equipment itself on the trucks is the same.
Okay.
It's a matter of, to be honest, it's the nature of the call. And I wish if it's a sore arm or something like that, it's not as critical a deal.
Right.
If it's cardiac arrest, it is. I mean, cardiac arrest is not even when you do. Yeah, we do some on scene. I mean, there's a lot of variables here.
So if you use another vehicle, the ambulance is up at the prison. The other ambulance is out on a call, and you get another call. You'd send another vehicle. Would there be a paramedic on that vehicle then?
Depends. It wouldn't be from Summers because right now we're not running paramedics. We're not licensed to go paramedics yet.
Right.
So even today, right now, what happens is, so if you had let's say chest pain right now in this office, you would get a Summers first response vehicle, which is the fly car or the responder with the EMT. You would get the ambulance with 2 EMTs on it. And then right now you would get the medic. Most of the times it's Johnson paramedic. If they're not available, you get the Enfield paramedic.
Okay.
So if the ambulance, let's say right now if our ambulance isn't available for whatever reason, we would start mutual aid ambulance, or the medic a lot of times, which is already coming, sometimes becomes a transport vehicle as well, because they do have transport capabilities. So like if we get the Johnson medic down here, the first responder could go sometimes with the fly car, and then the Johnson medic could get there and intercept. So I'm not denying that there isn't a chance for for a call or two that will happen in this 8-week period.
Just been busy.
My personal experience very recently is that both came at the same time, simultaneously. The help from Johnson and the help from Summers Fire.
How often do we run both ambulances at the same time? A couple times a month, 10 times a month?
10% of our calls.
10% of calls.
So it's 100 calls a month, 10 times a month.
That's a lot of risk. I don't know.
Times, you figure half our calls are day, half our calls are night. So you said, as I told the prison, we're probably looking at like 5 calls that we'd miss in that 8-week period. Just doing a back of a napkin type thing. And that's why I wanted to bring it here. Nothing's been signed, nothing's been committed, nothing.
Yeah.
So
But
again,
it is,
Well, that's a tough one because there's good to it and there's risk. I hate those.
where's the
very
closest
direction.
town that would respond? Enfield or Arlington?
for
Mutual
ambulance,
aid.
it depends on which end of town you're on. We do
Yeah.
Stafford, we do Ellington, we do Enfield. We do
You
East
may have
Lansing.
asked this, Tim, but how much does that add to the wait time then, if we were to self-respond versus mutual aid?
Again, if you're on that end of town, you get the Johnson medic.
Right away.
There are times that they're on the same time we are. If
That's the
Johnson
that
medic's
was my
coming
experience.
to Somersville, it's going to add 5-6 minutes.
Unless they were coming from Enfield.
Unless they're coming, and then if you get the Enfield medic,
Because you got Hazardville right there.
So we're down to somewhere around five or so calls.
5 or so calls with 5 or 6 extra minutes
What
probably.
would you
Over
do?
8 weeks.
I'd probably do it just to aid for the benefit of the prison and the relationship the relationship with the prisons, and also for my staff. I think that would be good.
Do you think you can still deliver the caliber of service we need in town if we
Yeah.
do this?
Correct. 'Cause we're not minimizing our manpower in town for this because they're paying for the supplemental manpower.
All right, you're the guy we hold accountable. If you think it's a good idea, I'll support you. But
I would, if I thought it was a really bad idea, I wouldn't bring it here.
I appreciate that, and thank you for letting me rant. I just get concerned when we do things that look good and then we didn't ask the question. So I appreciate it, but like I said, you're the guy that's accountable. If you think it's worth it to do, then I'll support you on it.
See,
Let's hope for the best.
there's no way of telling
But thank you.
whether
for
that call is going to be critical or not. See, that's the other aspect.
Yeah.
You
Well, I know, and you can outthink
Yeah.
it for the next 8 years,
Right.
but it's an opportunity worth investigating, and I think for all those reasons.
And they could have a heart attack on the prison ground, and the ambulance is there, and it paid
Yeah.
itself in dividends right then and there. So,
Yeah. So
and the reason why they're doing this is because I guess the last time they did the recruit class, they had a recruit drop dead, and there wasn't an ambulance right on scene, and that's why they pushed to have
yeah.
an ambulance.
So I guess back to your point, Kathy, if we can use this to open the door for dialogue on how we get this solved permanently, then I'm in a okay place. I don't.
You
love
know,
it, but
let's
don't
find
have
out
to.
who this new commissioner is, and I'll write him a letter similar to I wrote to the past commissioner, and use this as an example of our cooperation. update him in terms of the amount of calls we make to the prison, that we're good partners, with the Department of Correction. Please help us out. And I'll also send correspondence to Kissel as well as Kurt Bell. It's worth another shot. Who knows, maybe they may be receptive this time.
Is there a way that we, if you consider this appropriate and you want to do it, is there something we can put conditionally within the agreement that puts you not at risk if things aren't working out?
I mean, it's only 8 weeks. It's kind of, I don't know if we'll know, will we?
No, we won't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You want to vote?
Sure.
I can vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Passes.
3 voted yes.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
just-
not locked in, so I still got a lot of agreements back and forth.
I understand,
I
but,
know.
like I
And-
said, that we got to go with you, man. You're the guy. So I hope it works out well for everybody. And it's going, we're going at it with the best intent, and I think that's the good thing. But
That was my concern when John brought it to me also, is the amount of coverage and the risk associated with that. So
All
you
right.
can never document all the risk and respond, so. All right, John, thanks.
thanks, John.
Thank you for coming.
I was just here to listen.
All right, before we get to the budget, let's talk about boards and commissions. That would be number
8.
9.
It says 8 on here.
No, it's 9.
Boards and commissions is
Oh, 9. Oh, God. Don't tell me.
Just for the record, John, that wasn't my most fun conversation of the day. It's been that kind of a day. Thank
See
you.
later.
Have a good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, wait a minute. Number 9. Oh, well, the 12,
It's
8.
the one with the picture on it.
Yeah. 9. Kathy, just look at
Oh, I
9
know
on
her
your
already.
page.
We can talk about it. Go ahead. I'm ready. There's so much
Yeah.
paper here.
Take the paperclip off, it'd be easier.
Okay. Beth Frechette, did you talk
Yes,
with her?
I went to the Economic Development Commission open house night or whatever it was. They had a number of people there, and a lot of business people from Summers were there. Well, I came in late because I was also on the opioid task force that night, but these people stayed behind, and Beth Frechette was one of the folks who come to the program to try to, give herself a little more networking with others. And she said she'd really like to be on the commission. She had been obviously interviewed by the chair, Rick Cheney, and also by Vicki Clark, and they both asked that we bring this forward, that I bring this forward. And then it turned out that they were able to send the recommendation
Correct.
directly to the Board of Selectmen. So I thought she was pretty sound and wanted to really come on. She was serious about wanting to be a member.
As you know, we've had difficulty attracting competent people to various boards and commissions, so.
Right.
We've had trouble attracting incompetent people to them.
Yeah. So I'm in favor of this also.
Okay, I'm going to move to approve Beth Frechette to be appointed to the Economic Development Commission.
I'll second.
Additional discussion. Beth's resume is in front of you, based upon her background. And
Yep.
if it's been recommended by Rick Cheney
And
and
Vicki
Vicki
Clark.
Clark.
Both members of the, and they're desperately in need of people. I mean, Pam Billow writes to me weekly asking for us to find folks to help them out.
Yeah, when you get Dave Penny's comments, you can't even get a forum, for the housing. I mean, somebody willing to participate and volunteer, I think we should go with it.
Move to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
A question on this one too. The other night, someone introduced me to you. Talked to you and then talked somehow or another. It might have been at Rotary. I don't know where it
Dr.
was.
Tom Mazzoli?
It was someone who had another candidate and truly wanted to come on board. Do you recall that?
There was a gentleman came in that was recommended by Tom Mazzoli. Can't recall his name right now. And he wants to participate. I told him to send me a resume. And
Oh, you didn't get a resume
I
yet.
haven't got it yet.
Okay, because that will probably be another person that we can put on the Economic Development Commission.
Okay, one last item. You want to approve the authorization of scheduled payments before we get into the budget discussion?
Oh, yes. I actually printed the whole thing down
We
this
went
time.
through that last one, it's like, go
Yeah,
by.
well, we're gonna give you plenty of time.
That goes through a lot of paper, you know.
That would be,
Yeah, it does go through a lot.
that would be 12, Kathy. 10, number 12.
You don't print it out at home, do you?
I printed it out this
Oh, you
time
do?
because I wanted to
It's
look it
there.
over, because
No.
on my computer or on
She
my
gets a king's
iPad, the
neck
only way I
looking
can
at
see
it.
it is this way. You have
She
to
hasn't
turn your
quite
head.
figured out yet how to use the rotate
The lock
function.
I tried that, it didn't work. Don't give me that. Okay. So I did read it all, okay?
Awesome.
All right, so I move to approve payments in the amount of $337,376.38.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll sign this.
Which one we signed, the one you marked up?
That doesn't make any difference, you can sign that.
All right.
337,376. Dot 38.
Fresh new.
I got that one too.
Yeah,
We have
this is a
number
new
8,
one.
but
It's a
this
little
is a new
updated.
Oh.
one, so we don't have to.
See what I did?
So that's an updated date?
Wasn't I?
It's an updated 8,
8A.
amended 8.
You're killing me.
Okay, Brian, Brian and Mike, it's all yours.
So the top sheet shows the areas of growth in the budget. Total overall growth currently it stands at 752,522. Of that are two things that are considered offset expenses. OPEB contribution of 157,447, and the fire department going to an ALS program, estimated to cost about 67,000 in the first year. Both of those are offset by matching revenues. So while it does create expenditure growth, it doesn't increase the growth to the tax base at all.
Actually, that OPEB is not even, it's not a revenue, it's actually a
Right.
movement from a restricted portion
From a restricted
of the
fund balance.
general fund balance into the spendable
Yeah.
portion of it.
And we'll be able to show that at the town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, we'll have to show that. I
Yep.
mean, it's there, it's been in reserve for 10 years, and this is 1/5 of that reserve. We're
the
gonna
next
do
5
that over
years
the
it's
next
gonna
5
show.
years. We're going to move
Okay.
money which has been reserved for this trust fund
Okay.
into the trust fund.
see, the key is not
Okay.
to focus on the 752, it's to focus
Right.
on the
Then you have
478.
No, I like that, yeah.
Then you have the contribution to reval, which is for this coming fiscal year and the year after. 50,000 both years, and then it too will be gone from the budget.
So this year 2020, next year 2021, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So then the focus becomes on the net growth of the 478,075, and of that 478, I've highlighted multiple categories that total up to 469 of the 478, all of which are pretty much fixed. Health insurance, the premiums have been quoted with an estimated increase of 7.9%. We do know for sure we're adding 2 medics to town, which would be offered benefits, potentially a third. I'm pretty sure John has a third full-time person in his budget. So once you add those 3 in and the cost associated with them, that's your growth on health insurance costs. Salary increases at 93,000. It represents an average of 3% increase in salary for employees. Separation payout, an increase of 40,000.
But that's not a firm number, is it? That's anticipated?
What's that?
You have to
40,000
put
So-
something in there though.
Yeah, so what you do is you're basing it on the anticipated, because you
Retirement.
don't know if anyone's going to retire or
Yeah.
not. Currently, there's 4 employees that are in town that are eligible for retirement and could walk out the door tomorrow, and we're on the hook for their costs.
You would need to call a town meeting to appropriate the funds to
Yes,
pay them
because-
their separation payouts, if you don't anticipate on
Yeah.
a risk basis.
Yep.
that might
So with
happen, so.
with 4 of them, one of them could potentially cost you 36,000.
Correct.
one of them could be as low as about 17. But to not put it in there, and then, like you said, you have to call a town meeting to appropriate these funds. Right now, we budgeted in fiscal 19, we budgeted 40,000. In fiscal 20, I would recommend going to 80.
Run that past me again?
Wait, I don't get what you just said.
Yeah, you said 80.
In fiscal 19, we've budgeted 40,000.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is the delta.
This is the delta.
Oh,
We're increasing
okay.
it 40,000.
Alright,
So that's the increase. That's
It's
the
a
impact
very-
of the budget.
It's
an
a very
increase of
good move to
40,000.
make though, because there was a year, I
Yes.
think around 2010,
Yeah,
when
we
we had
got hurt.
two, and we got hurt really badly because we
Yeah.
didn't have it in the budget for two people to retire.
Yep. We are currently under union negotiations with the fire union. So we're just kind of estimating our potential cost increases between salaries. If any agreements come with copay changes on their insurance, if any agreements change with their pension contributions. So we're just kind of estimating those potential risks at around $50,000. That
Yeah,
could
that-
be a plus or minus.
That
Yeah.
negotiation will be on Monday. You're going to be part of that, or Mike? I will be with the chief.
What time is it out on Monday?
I think it's 10, but I'll
I
let
have,
you know.
I have a 10 o'clock interview.
We have an interview for tax collector.
Okay. That includes any compensation increase per hour too, right?
Yes.
50,000.
Yeah, just potentials. I mean,
Yep.
that number could actually be 75 when it's all said and done. We have no clue. We're just kind of making our best guess risk effort on that one and saying, you know, based on calculations, this is what I think it would be at. You know, if it came in at 65, we would have to, you know, John might have to hold the line on something else to try and help us, you know, fit that in there. Information technology, services continue to increase, internet costs, phone costs, leasing copiers, buying new computers. This year, it's actually the only department in the entire budget this year that's trending over budget. And so, based on their trend, we should increase the IT budget by $15,000 to hold true next year. Police salaries, $69,414. This is a increase in the cost of the resident state trooper in town, based on historical cost increases, fringe benefit increases, and so forth.
There are some bills being brought forth in the legislature that will
Right.
eliminate the charging of the overhead, which
Really?
would be a substantial savings for
I
us.
didn't
Would
hear
be.
that one.
Right now, the overhead is 107%
Yeah.
of salary, so you can imagine how much that line item
That
would
would
go down if we
be,
didn't
that
have
would
to
be
pay that.
significant for us in terms of savings, but don't count on it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like taxing groceries, that may or may not happen too, so.
Yeah.
But all this stuff is out there right now, creating uncertainty
The
when you
math
go to
doesn't
budget.
math doesn't add up.
Yeah.
You know, all these promises.
The remainder in that account relates to updated information on the SRO salaries and scheduling. When they were budgeted last year, they were higher than what we had budgeted them at because they frankly weren't going to come on board for that rate.
Right.
So this, you know, that gap is shown now in a new budget year. Kim has done a really good job of holding the line on the budget to make sure we don't go over this year. And so next year we're going to need that in there to do the same. Public Works, increasing 60,000, includes the full year for transfer station personnel that was approved during FY19, and that delta that was associated with that. And then they're also absorbing the vehicle maintenance from senior services, which was a $3,500 increase. And then an increase in the cost of road salt over the prior fiscal year as well. Health officer,
You know
going
where
up
that's
4,400. The last one retired. He was offering to do it at 3,600. This gentleman is offering to do it at 8,000. So the stipend increases, so does the line item.
Can I suggest something though? That's a lot better than what would happen if we had to go to the health
Absolutely.
district. That
Yeah.
was $471,000.
When we started negotiating with it, he wanted 20, so I was happy to get it down to
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
What you said adds up to 8, not 10, the developer.
Right, his stipend is 8. When I had originally put it together, I had it at 10 in it because for some reason 10 stuck in my head. So the 36 and
So
the
it's
44 is 8.
Right.
And then human services is a $25,000 increase. Their budget includes the addition of a part-time youth services employee, $14,820. An increase in the program expenses so that this person could run programs.
No.
And then an increase in costs for the bus drivers as well, which I personally have a hard time
I still don't know
with
what
the
we use
bus
those
driver
buses
budget.
for. I would like to get some
Are we
sort of
supposed to
clearance.
approve this?
No, you're supposed to
No.
challenge it.
Now we're
You
going
can
to-
Well, I
challenge
want
any
to
one of
challenge
these.
it right
Go
now.
ahead.
And that's
Kathy.
exactly what I
Get on
want
it.
you guys. And
Okay.
so the
And
next
so
grouping,
we-
the next
that's
grouping
strictly a
is
draft.
This is the line item detail of the budget that we currently have presented in front of us.
So-
And this is what I hope you guys would bring a red pen to.
I'm trying to
I'm gonna
look
bring a
to,
red pen.
I'm trying to look to see where we took the $2,500 or $2,800 out of senior services that you put into DPW for the swap.
Maintenance.
Yep.
If you look on,
All right, yeah, so it was $3,000 for this year and it's
Correct.
zero for next, okay, great,
correct,
thanks.
yes, vehicle maintenance line item in the 5135.
Yep.
Now with this budget also, I also added in the actuals as of today. So the second column from the left has the actuals as of today. And then it also has the 2 year ago actuals. So you look at, and this is the one that sticks with me, and if you remember last year's meeting, we went through it as well, is the part-time bus drivers. 2 years ago actual was 37,559.
Where are you?
What page?
I'm page 9, I'm sorry.
Man, my pages aren't numbered, but
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not
Next to
numbered.
last page.
I,
you should have written numbers on the pages.
well, I didn't get this until 10 minutes ago.
Part-time
Okay,
drivers,
so
yep.
let's
Part-time
go.
drivers.
37.
So 2 years ago was 37.5. Current year actuals is 23.2. The current year budget is 45. We're clearly well past the halfway mark. If we were at 23 in December, then we would be on track for the 45. We're at 23 in February. We're going to trend out at about 34 for the year that we're going to spend in that. So to propose a 45.9 budget doesn't sit well with me in that line.
Not at
item.
all.
So I will cut it back.
You can.
So I
you can
could have
take
sworn that
10.
when she asked for the new bus, we were going to get ridership statistics this year, and I haven't seen anything.
Join the club.
Yeah, so,
So I can get
I haven't seen
That was to
anything
keep the
either.
third bus, which.
I refuse to-
We've moved to sell it.
Yeah.
So we're going to sell it. It's just gonna remain.
Yeah,
one
CIP
bus.
and Board of Finance both want
but
it
I
sold,
still
so.
think we're driving the bus back and forth with 1 or 0 people on it that's costing us cash that we ought to really be looking at. don't
I agree.
get- I don't get why we're running Uber.
We run a dial-a-ride service. It's a premium service as opposed to like the Hartford
Yeah, and I
transit bus.
I
That,
think that we should get something from them that says, we recognize that this is too expensive, so I get that a couple days a week we might need to take people on appointments, but I'd like to see some sort of schedule for
we do
regular
groceries on
things.
Monday and
Yeah,
Wednesday. And
exactly.
This is
So
the
that
time frame.
it's
I
just
agree.
an old story because it's the same thing we do all the time,
No,
and
I-
I don't approve it.
I agree.
So that
with you.
impacts the drivers too in terms of their salary.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
Well-
would think if we take that line down to 30 from 35 and
that
kind of force
that
a
budget
plan.
that budget line item, realistically, the trend on drivers part time should be about 35,000. So you could there's $10,000 there that
I'd say do that.
I personally don't agree with.
I would mark that.
Yep.
I'd like to mark that
Down
as-
down 10.
Well, put it at 35.
35
Take-
even?
Take
Yep.
it down 10,968 to 35.
The page before it has the youth services in it, in the 5,100 line item with salaries. That has the youth services person, and then the dues and trainings, or no, not the dues and trainings, the
Is it in the salaries above? The dues and training? Is it in this number
Yes,
here?
this is got
There
the
it is,
increase
it's the
in,
25 or something.
it's got the increase there. And then on the page 9, that community supplies line item is where the programs are increased at.
No, I don't approve of that. I didn't approve of it last time. I think we have enough going with senior services, and I believe that we had thought with Chris doing what he was doing in other areas that we didn't have to do this right now.
Is there a job description for this new role?
Haven't
No,
seen
we
one,
haven't.
but we've
Scratch
been
it.
through this twice, and
Okay.
I've argued against it
I'm
twice.
going to scratch it.
So
You have to go into two accounts or that, one's account for salary. And
one's the
other
salary, one is the supplies. So
Nope.
the
Nope.
salary, so it was what, 14,
There's 23 plus 13.
25. You're talking about
13,
human services. 14,820.
and then, yeah, if you go to, again, back to page 9 where the drivers were at, that, with 2 line items there. One in senior services for programs and events, it's a $1,200 increase there, and then in supplies and community services is
It's
a
an additional
$1,300.
1,300.
So there's $2,500 there as well, and that's.
I take that out too.
Just reverting back to the same as prior
That's right.
year.
So what's the net pickup? The 2,500 plus the,
Plus on the page, let's see.
10?
Net pickup is, I didn't bring a calculator keypad with me, this will be easier. So it's on- I guess the 14,820.
I thought it was 25.
So 12,100. 28.2
There you go.
reduction in budget.
Brian, can we take a look at account 3015, Public Works?
3015 Public Works. Yep.
Couple
before we
questions.
get into that, I can't understand how we can budget if we don't have the metrics to support it in terms of the bus utilization. That concerns me. Okay. Which
Well,
number?
3015, Public Works.
Okay.
We had,
3015.
we had Todd come in and we had to do something with safety boots and those, so has he got that included in his supplies and uniforms line?
I think
Make
that's.
sure we don't short it.
I think he has that in his uniforms.
Could be, I just want to make sure it's in there, so if we
Me-
just double check with him before we adopt.
I've got it all in
Oh,
here.
cool.
I've got them all in digital format. Just let me open
Hmm.
his budget and see what he actually budgeted for in DPW.
Yeah, because I looked at uniforms and it went down a few hundred.
It
bucks.
did go down. Let's see, Public Works, we got DPW.
I find it fascinating, we have to spend $20,000 to monitor stormwater.
Yeah, he's got boot allowance at 2,200. How much did he say per person for? What was it, 200
Oh,
per person?
I might have it
Yeah,
here.
I thought it was $275 per person, or $200 per person, and it's once a year.
Yeah, it's once a year, once a boot year,
year.
not even a fiscal year.
Right.
Once a boot year.
Which they
So if
certainly
he's got.
I just want to make sure he's got it funded properly, so.
Oh,
if-
absolutely.
If you believe it is, then that's
Um,
And part-time salaries in that account seems to be growing by leaps and bounds, along with regular salaries.
That's for the snowplow drivers.
Right, so
Yeah.
the part-time one is, your part-time temp salaries is seasonal snowplow drivers and then the transfer station people.
Oh, they're part-time also?
That's the line item that their salary falls under, because they're only
They don't
full-time
have-
based by Affordable Care Act standards. They're not full-time based on Town of Summers employee They would have to work 40 hours a week to be considered a full-time DPW employee. but based on
30 hour
the Healthcare
week
Act,
and,
because they're over 30 hours or more, they are considered full-time under benefits.
And eligible for benefits.
But technically they're a part-time employee.
I understand.
And then the increase you're seeing in each individual department salary line items it's that 93,000 impact has just kind of been placed in each one of these accounts.
That's like a 5% bump, right? 5 or 6.
Well, you're looking at a 2-year spread, so you're
You're
actually-
looking at a 2-year spread.
You're actually
on that.
looking at
I'm looking
the-
at 607 compared to 577.
Right. So
30
what
grand
happened
down.
in prior years? The 577 was what was adopted, and
Yep.
then on July 1, raises were approved. And so that doesn't show in the adopted. There's actually an amended that I used to show in here, and it got confusing to not only the board but also to the townspeople. So the gap you're missing is from that 577 to the July 1 rates, and then the July 1 rates to what we're adding in anticipation of new July 1 rates. So if we fast forward to fiscal 21, that 607, it will be the base, and then it would go up, $5,000.
But still,
So
the
it's-
difference between fiscal year ending 19 and fiscal year ending 20 is 30 grand on a $577,000 line item. That seems like a
Right.
large increase.
It is because it encompasses 2 years. If you go to
maybe
the first
what it is,
page,
Maybe we just should modify the budget to show the salary. What he's saying is that when the budget is approved, it's at, just hypothetical, it's at $100,000.
Right.
So then on July 1,
Increases
are applied and
103.
transferred out of the selectmen's account, which everybody used to say, why is that account so big? Or those selectmen paying themselves all this money,
Yeah.
So they would transfer that out. And then, now in the new year, we decided that we're not gonna do that anymore. We wanna show the salaries where they belong.
Yep.
So what we're doing is we're comparing it back to before that money was spread.
right.
So it's actually a 2-year difference you're looking at right
So
there.
if you go on page 1,
So, if you want to eliminate that confusion, I think we could just use the modified for salaries.
we could,
I would
but
suggest.
so if you look on page 1,
Yeah, it says
the
2
second
years
line
prior.
item, the town hall salaries, the 92,000 that's budgeted there, that was in the adopted budget.
It's never been more than
That-
3% of total salary
Yeah, that-
in any year.
That pot of money is spread amongst all of the accounts currently, and you're not seeing the spread is the problem.
I get that.
So
I'm
there's
not asking my question well, so if you'd stop answering.
We're not
what I-
answering it well.
If
Yeah,
you
but
stop
you-
answering what I asked poorly, maybe I'll ask again.
But you had asked about a salary number in one of the prior
Yeah.
meetings, and he has that, and that increase or that pot is 3%.
their
And it's in
department.
line with all the union agreements we have in town and all the other salary increases.
Their
we have.
department goes up about 15,000 a year. So fiscal 19, they did start at the 577.
Right.
When raises
which
went
is
into
what we
effect.
approved in 19, right? So in
Right.
So now we're being asked to approve 20 at 607. I'm
Right.
wondering why there's the
So-
$30,000 delta. Did that policy change this year?
We changed the way we were showing it because it became confusing.
We took it out of, and we
So
already applied it to every single
that
department already prior to the
$92,000
beginning
line
of
item doesn't exist
So we're
anymore.
confusing everybody by doing that.
So it started at the 577. When raises went into effect on July 1, that department went up $15,000.
Okay.
That line item. So it went up to 589. Now with fiscal 20, another 15,000 brings it to that.
Okay,
It fits your
we're gonna redo
$30,000.
this. We're going to redo this.
I can
We're going
change
to
it and make
modify
it an
the
amended line.
salary line item to reflect what
The
it is
amended
on
budget.
July 1,
All right, so what I'm
so that the increase that you see is not, it doesn't look drastic. It looks,
Yeah, it'll only look like 15,000
Are
at
we-
that point.
in town, from what was approved walking into 2019 to what's going to be approved walking into 2020, can you get something from payroll that shows me full-time equivalent hours? How many, it's through dollars. I'm looking for how many people have we added to the payroll, because I get this, I get this sense that we're adding people, and we're adding a part-time person, we're adding this.
There was no
intern
bodies
person.
added as far as
Well,
in the
I
pit.
hear that, but it looks expensive, so I would just like to
Yeah.
validate that, so if
Yeah.
we can get hours. take the dollars out and.
Let me ask you your opinion, the financial guys here. My personal feeling, I think you're better off putting the salary increases in the department as opposed to one. To me, that makes
That's
a
what
lot
we're
of
attempting
sense.
to do.
Pardon me?
That's what
That's
we
what
were
we were
attempting to
Instead
do.
of
Right.
take it out of the
Our
Selectmen.
problem
selectmen.
becomes
Just
when we compare it to
Explanation.
what was done in the
In,
past.
in,
Right.
in one
Unless
year,
we-
it's going to look large, and then
Yeah.
going forward,
No,
it's
no,
going to
unless we
go
modify
back.
that to make it look.
Yeah, unless we, yeah.
This
We're
looked like
gonna
the addition of a
recast-
person.
What we'll have
that's
to
what I
do
was
is just
thinking of.
recast
I
the prior
get
year's
that.
budget to be the same principles that we're using in this
Okay.
year's budget.
So you'll see
So
the
then you-
delta,
Yeah.
as you call it, the
Right,
change, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no addition of a person in it. I know it looks
Right.
large,
And
but
what I'm looking at, Bud, is if you add regular and part-time salaries together, what I'm looking at on this piece of paper says what we adopted was 625 or something, combining those two lines and doing the math in my head. And now we're going to 694. That's a big jump in my head. And
That's
I'm
a
trying to
2-year,
figure out-
because it's a 2-year.
it's 2-year growth, and it's also
And it's a
the
2-year growth. in
transfer
people.
station
And
change
Yep.
and people as well.
I think anytime we change accounting principle, not principles, accounting, way we
Yeah.
account for this,
Yeah.
it's somewhat confusing, but I feel once that is explained properly, then going forward, that will not be an issue, if you can adjust
Well,
backwards.
if we recast last year's budget
Right.
to reflect the same assumptions and the same approach that we're using in this year's budget, there won't be such
There won't
a
be
drastic
confusion,
increase.
right.
And we'll explain that as such.
So,
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can put that back in.
Okay.
See, I had a problem with everything being lumped in the selectmen's budget, because
I
it
know
wasn't
that-
representative of what.
Yeah. I don't
And then it
disagree
looked
with
like
that
we had
decision at
funny
all.
money
Nope,
that we
nope.
never had, because
Yeah.
it had to
Right.
come
No,
out
I
where
think,
it
I
was
think
supposed
that's
to
the
go.
right decision.
Right.
I'm just
yeah, you're
wondering
doing the
how it
right
looks.
thing, it's just a
Yeah.
matter of showing it the right way.
Right,
So-
and there will be questions, but I think it's how we explain this to the public
absolutely.
is gonna be important.
Yep.
There's no sleight of hand here, and unfortunately, people draw conclusions that way, so.
Well, lacking the right information, we'll make our own stuff up, but
No, you can't do that. All right, Brian, sorry.
so when are we actually going to vote on moving this forward to Board of Finance? What's your timeline, Brian?
I'm hoping by the next meeting.
Okay.
So I've made the changes that you guys were talked about tonight. Already made them.
Can I officially vote by phone on that one, because I'm gonna miss the next meeting?
Yes, you
Yes,
can
you
go
can.
by phone.
Okay.
You can, if we
As
phone
long as
in.
there's a quorum here, you
Yeah.
could be.
You
You
can
can't
phone
out
in.
here, but
I-
call in.
I will. I'll call
There's
in.
something
It's gonna
I
be somewhere
don't
between here and
understand.
here.
Maybe you could explain it to me. Why are we letting Public Works absorb vehicle maintenance from senior services?
One, they
That's a
have
good idea.
they have the expertise to do
Yes.
There's
Two-
there's been issues with
there
with non-expertise.
it. There
Well,
is.
I don't care where it is. I'd like to see it in that, in that budget, and not, and even if they're doing it and it's costing us
So
money.
He knows what that number is, the transfer from
Yeah.
the senior center to
The,
that.
the problem then becomes you're sending a stack of bills over to Public Works for codification and signatures. Now they got to remember, well, this one was senior, so I got to write the senior line, and this one is Public Works, so I got to write the public. If it's all in one, you don't have errors of where things get expensed from.
All he has to account for is 2 buses.
Yes.
And one of them is gonna be new, so I'm not so sure how much he's gonna have, because it's gonna be
A
under
lot of it's going to be
warranty.
warranty.
Also, to be more efficient, more cost-effective by
Didn't
having
work for me when I
DPW
was in
do it.
business.
What's
You want
that?
the
When
cost
I
to
was
show up
in-
in the department.
When
where
I
it is.
managed,
Yep.
I managed people, it was done by department, because then I could say, wait a minute, this is just, you're a little off compared to the next, and I think we're covering up that this is still costing money within the senior citizen budget.
Right.
Yeah,
Is there-
that happens at my work too, where we put it back in the right department, so we know what the
So we know
return
where the
was on
cost
that
is coming
expense.
from.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't disagree with that. I just know the issues that we currently have and the issues we're going to continue to have.
Yeah, I'm in favor of having DPW do this. Now, how you want
I'm
to
not.
I definitely want Public Works to handle it.
Right.
You want double, but
I don't disagree with leaving it in the senior bus by any means. I just know it's going to create a lot of mistakes because
So-
we already have them, and
So
they're only dealing with one line.
suppose
Well,
we
no,
can,
no. Well, I think all they're
No,
saying
no.
is just put the money and show it in that budget.
Right, I get
And
that.
then create the whole procedure around it, so
Yeah.
that the only thing is done is that budget is charged by Public Works.
Yeah.
Well, I get that.
Suggestion.
I'm saying they're gonna miscode every invoice that comes through.
Public
and
Works
I'm
is
not
gonna
saying-
miss
no,
it.
no, no.
Yes, and I'm gonna spend hours fixing it.
I don't think I'm asking
Two
that.
buses?
I'm saying,
Yes.
when it comes to a reflection on a budget sheet,
Mhm.
I'm all in favor of DPW handling the invoices and doing the work.
Mhm.
But when it comes to what the cost of that particular department is, I
Right.
want to see it in that
I
budget.
get that.
You'll get that.
I'm saying when they
You'll
don't,
see it.
yeah, I'm
It
saying,
just won't appear.
I'm saying when they get the invoice and actually say, okay, this was senior, and they go to write the code, they're going to miscode it. And I'm going to spend hours at the end of the year fixing it and filing an invoice and finding it and saying, oh, this one was supposed to be with this line item. And so,
then how are we gonna
because it
eventually know what
happens
costs to
now
maintain the
when
budget?
everything's already in one account. It already happens that I end up with misbudgeted accounts that I'm moving stuff. So when I give them a different line item,
Tim's got a
Well,
question.
it's somewhere down the line then, even if it's quarterly, and we could look at every department,
Mhm.
and you reflect that, so we know that's a
I mean,
a
I'll
line
put
item.
it in
It's a
senior.
cost.
That's
Why
fine.
don't we create a new line item in Public Works called
Senior
buses,
bus maintenance.
bus maintenance?
I can do
And
that.
I
then
would be
they will
happy with
only
that.
I could
charge
do
bus
that.
maintenance to
I
that
love it.
line item,
I could do that. That's
and
fine.
then
Yeah, we
I'm
know it's
happy
for
with
senior
that.
center.
problem solved.
Okay,
Love
Good.
it.
I could do that.
Wait, should I have a meeting?
Is that?
Thank you for your.
That will be.
I agree with Brian because it's not been effectively managed.
Yeah, but eventually we wanna know what's it cost to run the bus.
Yeah,
And it's
which
hard to
Mike's
think that-
suggestion
Mike's
will do
suggestion
that.
works perfectly, that's great. All right, so we'll come prepared to vote next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, I mean,
What's the drop dead date you need to get approval from us?
Usually it's
the
done.
goal is for the board to present to the Board of Finance on the 25th of this month, the first presentation. So that's why you have to approve it, because you have to have your approval to send to Board of Finance. So the 21st is kind of the last chance on
But
that.
based upon what we discussed tonight, you want to see the final numbers before you vote?
I want to see it before.
Okay. So if you
Yeah,
get
no,
those
I'm
out,
fine with that too, yeah.
if you can get it out,
Yeah. And I made the changes, it goes down from what's on here,
the 490,
goes down.
469 to what?
what's that?
Talking about this?
Oh, no, I'm talking about on the line item, so if you, the very
28.
last page, the 1920, the town line,
Yeah.
the total I have right now is 8243. So with the changes that we made on, with senior and so forth.
My line is what, I'm
So
sorry?
right now, it's at this one, it's 827. So with the changes made right now, it would be 8,243,497.
8,243,000.
497.
497.
Okay.
Be an increase of 724,194.
724, 194.
Or
Percentage.
9.63%.
Okay.
Brian, make sure I got this right for the minutes. So your office would like this board to vote at our February 2021 meeting to move an approved budget to the Board of Finance to the BOF 225 meeting, right?
Yep.
That's good. Thanks.
If you remove,
And so if I take that 469.
if you take out the contribution to the OPEB in that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm actually, so I'm taking, right now I got the 724,194.
So the 963 goes down 2, which is going to...
72.
That should be,
Minus, and I get rid of these top line expenses that I had. So then the net growth is 449,747,
449, 747 net, okay?
which is a 5.9% or 598% increase.
598. I don't know, from an accounting standpoint, can you asterisk that or something, so
I will have it in a chart. I've already got a couple of charts put together for the actual budget book.
Yeah.
So it'll reflect a lot of this and show, like, you know,
Yeah, people will focus on
positions
that
as growth
9.63.
versus net growth, and
Yeah. That.
you know what it means to, and like the
Don't underestimate
bottom
the
line.
ability to confuse people.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
accounting.
So then, Brian, what would the total then be for BOE and BOS? Total.
The total would be 34,056, 463.
34,056.63.
463.
And what's that percentage?
5.41% total.
Okay.
And it's a net increase of 1,748,228.
748. 228. Okay. And your revised numbers will reflect that, so we'll have that for the.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't bust your neck working on that salary. And I think I get it. I might ask again, but don't bother me stating that.
it'll
because
be
I just want to make sure it's clear for when we get to public hearings that we know it's not a staff addition. That's
Yep.
something I want to make sure that everybody knows we're not adding 32 people to.
Right. No, the only additions are the ALS in the fire department. Those are the only.
Well, it's ALS, and compared to last year, it's the communications person that we brought on for.
Right,
Chris's
that's in
department.
recreation.
Right. So there
we
have been some.
We have moved that in, so that's why you see the growth in the recreation line, because he only has that one line item. But with that as well, we also increased his contribution to the general fund.
Yeah.
The prior in fiscal 19, the rec department contributed. Where is my number? Contributed 15,000, and right now I have his contribution for fiscal 20 at 20,000.
His bigger contribution is to the town. I mean, it's such a great program.
It is
that
a
he's running.
phenomenal program.
But it's one of those things that I think we want to highlight at the budget meeting, that sometimes you invest and it really creates a quality of life
Yeah.
that we want to.
And we'll continue to do so. Yeah, I
Right.
think that's a good story.
But it did come with the additional
Yeah.
HR resource that we need to put in there for all that, as did the transfer station. So
Yep.
I just want to make sure that people understand that's what you
What's the date of the Board of Finance meeting?
225.
25.
That'll be in the minutes. Don't be calling me Mr. Secretary. I'm only doing this on a fill-in basis because somebody went to the Patriots game and didn't bring me.
Any other discussion, Brian or Mike?
I don't have anything else on
Thanks.
the budget.
This is a pretty good
Do you
process, I
have
think, this year.
communications that you didn't? Were
Yeah,
there
we
any?
didn't do that yet.
We didn't
The
communications
Citizen
yet.
comments you haven't done yet.
Well,
So
yeah.
We have
But he
any
was just
citizen
asking
comments?
Brian and Mike if they had anything more to.
Yeah. Well, we heard from Ralph, we heard from, it was on the agenda for David. Those citizens showed up.
Do you have more to say?
No.
Okay. We have this letter. Did you want to bring that up? Because it was in the packet.
We can.
I think we should at least note
Recognize
for the
it.
All right,
record that we
why
have a
don't
letter
I,
from, I don't think you need to read the letter, we just need to recognize that we received them and
I
we'll just attach it to
received
the minutes.
2 letters to citizens on Hall Hill Road regarding the discussion at the Economic Development Commission meeting on a proposal by Presley Blake to transfer his property and Monticello and one other piece of property to Hillsdale College. There will be a article in tomorrow's GI about this.
Can't tell you about that, can I?
That's in the rearview mirror, Ralph.
No, there,
You bet it is.
no, there will be. I gave an interview.
But this
today on
is,
that.
this is a zoning issue, correct?
This is a zoning issue, and I've indicated that to these 2 citizens and everybody else. This is in the purview of the zoning commission.
I'll put that in the notes that you let them know, that you advise the citizens that.
I noticed they copied Joe Conklin.
Yes.
And one of them also copied Jennifer Roy. So
The
it will
first
be
letter
going to
was read
zoning.
at the zoning commission meeting this past week, so that's in the record also.
Okay.
So really, it depends upon the end use of the product, and end use of the of Hillsdale College. whether or not approved by the zoning commission, etc.
Way to hand it off to somebody else, boss. I like it.
Well, it's not our purview.
I
It's the
know.
process. By charter, it's the
Yep,
process.
so that's the way she goes. I like it. Okay.
Oh, and you have received in your package a draft of the strategic plan for the Board of Education, which I
Got it.
presented yesterday.
Mhm.
That has not been firmed up yet, but I thought you should have that.
Perfect. Thanks. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thanks for attending, Ralph.